Okay.
Hello and welcome to the DXdao governance discussion. Today is the 27th of July, and we can jump right in with a proposal roundup. Quite a few proposals live on Gnosis Chain. We have a couple on Mainnet as well. We have two rep syncs coming in on Mainnet, one from Wayne, which I believe might be his first rep sync to Mainnet. So congratulations, Wayne, on that. Getting your sovereignty on Mainnet. Then we have Violet as well doing, I believe, a bit longer rep sync as well on Mainnet. And then we have one very unique proposal as well, actually, which is a Pudgy Rod NFT. It's not so important, but I'll just give a brief overview for those of you who might be wondering what it is. Someone sent a NFT to a friend of his whose ENS domain is carrot emoji followed by carrot.eth, because you can have emojis and ENSs, but the friend just sent it to carrot.eth, which links or resolves to the DXdao avatar. So they sent it to the DXdao avatar by mistake, and this is just returning it to the rightful owner. So we if anyone was very excited about the Pudgy Rod in the treasury, unfortunately that will be leaving soon. And that's already all we have on Mainnet, actually. Then moving on to Gnosis Chain, we currently have 3 buybacks live there, and we have a lot of worker proposals and claiming of budgets for conferences, etc. So we have Violet's worker proposal from May to July, so the last one claiming the second period. Then we have Int Blue, his contributor proposal, the retrospective one and the current one. He's also claiming his first rep, I believe. And he did say that things at the DAO are going to change once he's got his 0.16% rep. So I'm excited to see Int Blue partake in governance from now going forward. Then we have Van Grim's worker proposal and payment request from Lucy Foss, as well as Ali Q and George Lopez. Then we have a couple of proposals from Level K regarding some reimbursements for ETH Denver hackathon bounties, for some augmented finance funds that were sent to the DXdao multisig, and some of the more regular software subscriptions. And then lastly, one very exciting proposal, which everyone is always very excited about, I believe, is the Appreciation DAO proposal. So this proposal actually transfers funds to the DXdao multisig that can then be dispersed according to the outcome of the coordinate epoch 2. So for those listening, maybe who this is like DXdao's kind of like, I don't know if bonus structure would be the right way to phrase it, Melanie. Maybe that's not it's like the coordinate epoch. Okay. But it's where contributors can give each other, everyone gets 100 tokens, and contributors can give each other tokens and feedback about their work. And then based on how many tokens people have, we have like a bonus going out. And I believe it's $30,000 US this year, if I'm not mistaken. And it ends on Saturday. So if you haven't done your coordinate allocation yet, make sure to give your gives away. Other than that, on Arbitrum, we currently don't have any live or boosted proposals. A couple of other agenda topics that were on the forum. One of them was the RAI in the treasury. So of course we offloaded some of our RAI with the previous proposal. John made a post about the current RAI situation, that we still hold RAI, and just wanted to bring it up here to see if anyone had anything to say about it or was opposed. The sentiment in the forum appeared to be that we should move ahead and like sell the remaining RAI into other stables, perhaps with a commitment to repurchase RAI once the annual redemption rate is closer to 0 or perhaps even positive. And yeah, not sure if anyone has anything to say about that. Otherwise, I'm thinking we can probably move this towards a proposal stage.
Yeah, I like the idea of selling the remainder while the negative rate is still quite high and it will take a few months. I also like Chris's comments that we could consider voting on a proposal to repurchase, but that should come with a clarification that it would not take Ether. It would rather be done with specific stables in the treasury that we would probably want to let go of, right? So, but overall in support, like from what we've been seeing in proposals, nothing against. So.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Like DXdao, I don't know if we've determined what like the DAO's favorite stable coin is or stable token. If the government decided to shut down all the USDC that DXdao has, or shut down USDC in general, and that kills USDC and DAI, like what token should the DAO be holding? If RAI is actually the only one that couldn't be shut down by someone, even at a cost, like what would DXdao do if all of USDC was shut down? Which token would DXdao decide to use?
There's two other stablecoins that we have in the treasury that I think would fit in that category, and that's LUSD from Liquidity and SUSD from Synthetics. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely an argument for RAI, but I think just unfortunately it's also like losing money. So it's a balancing act between those things. Of course, also if there was that kind of risk of the US government or something happening that would compromise the USDC coins, and maybe even by extension DAI, there would at least still be the ETH, right? Like that would be kind of a more extreme scenario, but the treasury overall, yeah.
But so the question is, like, if we sell RAI and we're using Tether, because the DAO is making some conscious efforts to get rid of some tokens. If we sell the RAI, are we gonna sell it? Are we gonna turn it into LUSD and Synthetics though, or are we gonna turn it into DAI and USDC, which we already have a bunch of?
Yeah, it's a good question. The previous one, we did a mix of USDC, DAI, and LUSD. I think from like a more pragmatic point of view, everyone just really requests DAI and USDC, right? I don't think there's ever been a proposal requesting any other stablecoin. So of course, kind of like from operational perspective, it makes sense to do USDC and DAI, although we do have a sufficient amount for, to fulfill all proposals coming up in the near future, both on Gnosis Chain as well in the couple of years on Mainnet. With LUSD, it has been trading at a premium, so that would be like, it's actually trading at 3% premium. So like buying LUSD would actually be a larger loss than what we currently took on the RAI. So that's one thing that's kind of been holding us back. In fact, we still hold some DAI in the DXdao Omni multisig to kind of purchase LUSD, but it's just constantly trading at a premium. So, and it has been doing so for like the past couple of weeks. So I think that's also something to consider. If we do want to get LUSD, there is also a cost to it in some sort of way.
Yeah, I would say that like if we had to pick one, we don't pick one because we want diversification. But if we had to, I would say we'd probably most favor DAI, because obviously DAI is a lot backed by USDC, but still it has other things. And you would think that if someone attacked or the government attacked USDC market, like maybe the DAI system, the maker system, could transition to other tokens being more backed, more backed than using USDC, and maybe it would trade at some discount. But like DAI, like the maker system is like a rather friendly, and that's with XDAI and DAI, it seems like I don't think it's 85% USDC. I think it's only like 55% now, which is not as bad. But like everyone likes holding, it ties in with XDAI, it holds DAI. So I would say that DXdao should probably favor DAI over USDC. I don't know if, the fact that like no one's requesting USDC usually and stuff is another thing. It's like our economy, our internal worker contributor economy kind of runs on DAI and XDAI. So I think that's declared as the favorite at this point. So then it's a question of, if we're getting rid of synthetics because it looks like Terra a little bit, like, do we turn it into DAI mainly?
I actually think we maybe should I haven't done this yet myself, but like take a closer look at synthetics, because that was the thinking. I think we offloaded some synthetics because of its kind of resemblance to, I mean, it's not the same as Terra, but there was some concern, right, that it would like similarly potentially lose its peg because it's backed by an endogenous asset in terms of SNX. Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, it looks a little bit, that's like the main characteristic that like raises a concern. But then somebody, Rafa, was telling me, who's a guy who used to be at Gnosis at Synthetics now, that was telling me that they actually had a lot of ETH and stuff as well to back it. And additionally, it unwinds, right, because they have CDPs. So it can kind of like adjust itself as the market moves. So I think maybe synthetics could still be a good candidate, but like needing some due diligence there. And I think, Dave, you had mentioned that in your last worker proposal.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense to like, just for everyone at DXdao to perhaps also have like a better understanding of the stables we hold, and like the implications of them. And so it was looking to prepare a post on that, and might even just be helpful to know what stablecoin you want to claim as your worker proposal payment.
Yeah, I think everyone.
And I guess
DXdao pretty much.
Yeah, but I think that's mostly a UI thing, because everyone does a worker proposal on Gnosis Chain, and like XDAI is the default one. Like if you're using DXvolt and want to claim something else, especially USDC, it's like 6 decimals. It's like confusing, but a lot of the auditors, they strongly prefer USDC, for example. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could actually claim LUSD and even get like a 2 to 3% premium on your compensation, because LUSD is trading at a premium. So
yeah, another interesting question is, could contributors request ETH instead of a stable token? Would that be okay, or would that be not what the DAO wants?
I don't know if I think there was some discussion about this before I even joined the DAO. I know Adam had requested at some point claiming ETH on Gnosis Chain, right, Adam?
I wanted to, because I felt like it's lucrative for me to get ETH rather than waiting 7 days until I get my stables and then convert that. I was just trying to buy ETH at a reasonable price, but right now, if the DAO sends ETH, it's like the DAO's selling ETH at probably the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's best to just take out stables for now.
Another separate idea, which I've talked to a bunch of people in Paris about, because it's a unique situation that a DAO like DXdao is having trouble, securing runway using stable tokens. And so there's a bunch of products that kind of, one's called pods, another one, does like individual like management, like products that replicate something that you want. And so one idea, it could actually be to just use ETH and options or futures, basically, like by forward selling ETH, is another way to secure runway by actually holding ETH itself, by locking in the price of like where DXdao has the ability to sell ETH. And so doing that on some rolling basis, maybe every quarter, there can be a cost or a benefit to forward selling crypto, using options or using some type of future. But as long as if that system is not centralized and is decentralized, there are ways for DXdao to use derivatives to basically secure dollar-based runway by not actually holding stable tokens, by just securing the price of ETH at the time it wants to secure the price of ETH. So if we were thinking about that in the past, as ETH was going up, we could have been, instead of turning ETH into stable tokens, we could have just been locking in the future price to be able to sell ETH, which is another way to secure a runway. And so some of those teams, like pods, for example, are seeing if there's like a easy way to put those things together and have an asset that DXdao could hold, which is basically like ETH forward sale, like forward sailed ETH, in order to, and if that's more secure than, or more decentralized than holding a centralized stable token, that could be an interesting alternative. So when these guys get back, I'll share that more in like the forum or something.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little past the time where it's needed, but that would have been a nice option to have, that, like, during the heights of the bull market, to be able to like sell puts. There's some carrying cost there presumably, but that could be a smart hedge, right, as things heat up.
Or buy puts, but
did I say sell puts? I meant buy puts. Yeah. Sorry.
But also, there's this underlying risk of the protocol. They may have been audited by several auditors, but still the security of a stablecoin that has billions in TVL is a little kind of like more assuring. But if there's a lack of like good stable coins to choose from, that's a good alternative.
And there's a few new ones coming, like Ghost and Curve apparently has an interesting one coming. So
awesome. But so to close the RAI discussion, I guess we'll go ahead and create a proposal to sell that, and maybe we can discuss in the forum into what we should sell it, whether that should be DAI or perhaps something else. So I can do that this week. And then moving on, we had also a post from Chris in the forum about DXD token working group. Not sure if you wanted to say anything about that, Chris.
Yes, let me share my screen and actually talk first about a different post that kind of leads into the token working group. So this was last week for those of you in Paris. And this is kind of some update on the buyback and maybe looking at next steps. So we have, I think there's just about 75 ETH that's left in the GP relayer right now to continue that there. And this is kind of looking at what to do for next steps here. There are really kind of three suggestions for going forward. And one is to extend for the last 107 ETH to be purchased from the buyback reserve. So this would be the last amount of funds that would be from the buyback reserve and kind of operate under the exact same way that DXdao has been purchasing DXD over the last almost 15 months. So that one could be done, and then burning that DXD once we'd be hitting that right from the buyback reserve. This was discussed and approved in the extension number 8 that was passed in May. I think that could be something we could do some marketing around, kind of something very cool, because of course we could do that through the curve. And then again, the last one, I think, as we go through this next kind of uncertain phase for DXD, and also because I think where the price of DXD has gone as related to ETH, I think it finally makes sense to provide $1 million of DXD ETH liquidity on Mainnet, while also raising the LP fee to 0.4%. So these are a couple ideas kind of for the buyback update, and hopefully that we'll kind of turn that into some proposal over the next week here, really revolving around that last 107 ETH. And just as like a note I made in this post here, like I think that where DXD is now compared to other tokens and compared to when like the buyback program started, I think that gives some kind of flexibility in how to move forward here. And as the market turns to bear, so does kind of the monetary policy have to change a little bit. So I think you've kind of seen that a little bit in how some of the buybacks maybe have slowed down a little bit. But again, I think that makes sense, because it's one thing when DXdao was purchasing ETH at 0.11 ETH, but at these levels there. So that's kind of there. So we're checking that out there. But as part of that, I think the long-term these are kind of suggestions on how to move forward in the short term, right? So this would be to give DXD holders something to over the next couple months. But I think there's some like long-term questions that we need to address, and we've been talking about this over the last couple months. And I think the best move is to create a dedicated DXD token working group that can lay out a model and a plan that can be then acted upon and implemented. I think it's important to have this plan out so that we can give some confidence to DXD holders, right, that there is something kind of being worked on there. So this is a post that's modeled some of it off of the Governance 2.0 working group, which was in the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021, which I think did a good job of really finding a solution to a cruxing problem for DXdao governance. It had a lot of different people from contributors, but also kind of outside individuals and parties that I think gave a really good discussion there, and I think we came up with a good solution there. So I think there's something kind of to replicate there in this token working group. So the scope of the working group, I think these are really the key three goals that we really don't have, I think, right now. It's one is how is revenue profit assets of DXdao translated into DXD? Two, how can it be staked to participate in governance? Of course, this is part of the governance 2.0, so the token model would need to have that. And then three, clearly communicated and attractive to new token holders. I think this is an important part about bringing people into the community, is having like a clear value accrual there and having that being easy to understood by token holders and by potential token holders, I think is really important there. And so I think that's the scope, and other things like maybe we should be thinking about multi-chain, and then harkening back to the previous post, looking at maybe DXdao provided liquidity as part of the token model itself there. And so then I kind of put, in terms of the schedule, I'll jump around a little bit here. So in terms of the schedule timeline, I think this is something that we want to take our time on and kind of slowly develop and research. And I think a key thing for me is having like some in-person time around the October DX retreat to really dive in and maybe get into some details. And if there are disagreements or are things that people aren't sure of, to kind of like iron them out there. So this is a couple month timeline, and proposing we meet like bi-weekly, mostly bi-weekly, with some weeks kind of adjusted for when Bogota and traveling there. In terms of participants, of course, like definitely want everyone from DXdao contributors, everyone on this call, anyone's interested in DXdao governance, but want to make sure like we make an extra effort to reach out to other those in the community. So the DXD token holders, Connor, of course, I think has been active, and I hope to continue to see him be active in this. And then also I even think of other people in DeFi and DAO's community. I think this is like a great opportunity for everyone on Twitter who's trying to come up with some cool hip idea on how DAOs can be structured, or how tokens can accrue value. And I think it's a really unique opportunity for an existing group, an existing DAO, existing token, and with products, with revenue, with assets. So I think it could be an opportunity to attract other people and other people's ideas in. So I definitely encourage other people, if this does pass, to kind of encourage others to join that there. And that was it. I think, John, there was a response from you there, so maybe you have a comments, but yeah, if anyone else has any thoughts or comments, open to it here or on the forum.
I just pasted it. It's an old one that probably most people forgot about by now, but I had made a post last May about DXD token model, and it has 23 likes, so some people saw it and resonated with them, and maybe that's also worth taking a look at.
Cool.
I think it's a good question that John mentioned in his comment, like the revisit of this discussion. Is it to explore a new token model that distributes value back to token holders directly, as we're not happy with the current one with buyback and burn? Or if we feel like we already have somewhat of a consensus that we can proceed with the buyback and burn, we stick to that one and then just delay the implementation when we have dev resource.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the goals here, and these are things that I don't think exist now, and we don't really have any ability. Again, the post that John just shared really only has anything to do with revenue, and I don't think there's a clear way for how the swapper token, for instance, translates into the value of DXD at all. And so we have to come up with a way to do that as it relates to assets there. And again, we need something to kind of de-stake and to participate in governance. So I think there's a lot to be figured out here. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that there's been some uncertainty kind of on how DXD moving forward. So yeah, I look forward to kind of talking about this and I think coming up with a solution that will work.
One of the I see my feeling is one of the this was the outcome of like the last discussions we had around like with all the active people from our community on like the DXD buyback and the different options is like the key thing that's missing is now a year and a half later and still DXD token holders do not have any governance, and that ties in with driving value to DXD, that ties in with people holding DXD, that holds in with rep holders who also have DXD. Without that being solved, and I know we're working on it, but it's it's now a year and a half later. Without that piece, I think it's very hard to change many other things that are related to DXD token until DXD token holders have some actual governance say. Because even if you come up with some awesome ideas around driving revenue to DXD, that can change a bunch as we change the system to give DXD token holders governance. And so it makes all of the other things hard, but until that thing which we've said is going to happen and it still hasn't happened, that's probably the most frustrating thing to people that just hold their DXD when they're looking into the DXdao community and what's going on. They still have no say in governance, which makes it hard to adjust other things related to DXD, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. And we don't have Ross or Gusto on the call right now, or I don't even know if anybody from the GovDev team's here. So, but I don't think there is a roadmap, right? They're actively working on it. We got a solid team in place, but it's not like governance 2.0 is going to be ready this year, right? Like it's going to take a decent amount of development that is not, the final pieces of the governance 2.0 governance haven't really been started yet. That's going to take a while. It needs audits, needs thorough testing, and there probably needs to be a very careful launch plan around it, considering that it's securing the full treasury and everything. So just to say that it is in the works, it's being worked towards, but it's not something that's I could give a date for, or say, yeah, that's only a couple months out. It's going to be longer than that.
So someone is working on it, or the way I feel is it's basically no one is working on it right now. On Gov 2.0.
Not on the Gov. Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the roadmap, and again, it would be better to have Russ to talk to this, but it's the guilds piece is just the ERC20 token governance. There's, are they calling it Davi now, or am I getting things mixed up? That is the DAO stack style, the governance that DXdao still runs on, with new modules being introduced, like the wallet scheme, which is sort of a general purpose scheme that is meant to be used in the future, as well as a permissions registry. And now they're the next step, they're talking about just upgrading individual components like the reputation and the controller. And then the final piece would be to have a new voting machine, which actually calculates the new voting power that takes into account DXD and rep, right? So there is this plan towards it, right? But it's got these different stages, and it's not diving right into the governance 2.0 piece, right? I guess like if the if the main like priority at all costs was to like get the governance 2.0 aspect live, like maybe you would do like a voting machine first. But yeah, that'd be revisiting the roadmap.
Yeah, so I understand now, like the smart contracts which which are currently being built for Davi, which is like a project name, a temporary project name for the product, like the governance dashboard for anyone who wants to use it. So the contracts itself are just like a pre-release of a potential Gov 2.0 implementation.
It's all building up to Gov 2.0, yeah. Like, and I guess like you could get to Gov 2.0 faster if you did a new voting machine and then just plug that into what we have now. But like the reason that doesn't make sense is like other upgrades and stuff need to happen as part of this. A lot of the like even just the basic stuff at DAO Stack is just like it's just old, like it has the wrong transfer, it has the deprecated transfer function. Like we want to do different things with the schemes and all that, right? And this isn't something you can just like roll out like piece by piece, because every time you change a significant piece of the governance thing, it's like, the whole thing sort of like needs to be evaluated in a serious way. So it's very expensive in order to like audit and like launch a new governance and migrate everything over to the new governance, right? So when we do it, we don't want to have to do it more than once, right? We want this to be like, we're doing the migration, and then once we're migrated, like this should support us like indefinitely with, some flexibility on new schemes or voting machines if needed at some point. But like, but yeah, I mean, the main reason not to just jump right into a Gov 2.0 thing right away is because we only really want to have to migrate once.
Which is why I think like that system, which I'm trying to picture in my head, which is defined by the governance 2.0 working group that made this whole plan that is now going to be 2.5 years to get to. Like there's DXD token is highly involved in that structure, like staking it or whatever you do with DXD token, that any system that's driving value to DXD token. So as we see in other projects, there's usually a tie between who gets the revenue, like X sushi, you stake sushi, you get X sushi, that's your governance power. Then that's who gets the revenue, and that's who's the backstop of the system and stuff like that. And Aave, you have to stake it to backstop, and then you get the revenue. The DXD token is going to be a part of governance, and it's also a part of getting revenue. And I don't see how you can separate those two things, because in all systems, it's a governance token and it's a revenue token, and there's going to be some tie-in where you're going to have to do something with your DXD token.
And I think that's the staking right? that needs to happen, right? Like that's what we need. That needs to be figured out. It's like, how do you design a system for DXD token value accrual where you have to stake your DXD token in governance, because that's part of the governance 2.0 scheme. And with that, then there has to be like, well, what are the incentives? What are the reasons why you're staking it? And then why would someone like not stake it? Right. And so presumably you'd stake it partially to have the governance power, but presumably there's also some benefit to having revenue towards you, right? This is like the curve model there. So I think what is like the missing piece in the governance 2.0 is, what is the value accrual to a staked DXD?
Mm-hmm.
So is it Gov 3.0?
No, I don't think this is really, I mean, governance is about the distribution of like voting power. This is about, I think, value accrual to a token.
I see, but it's very intertwined with Gov 2.0. Like, I mean, I understand why a working group might make sense. Like, how do you put like the financial benefits into like the system we defined at Gov 2.0, right? Yeah, like including the product tokens. And I think that's also like a I mean, John tried to introduce a way forward for product tokens. So it will, like, the working group will be mainly about how we introduce like the product tokens into Gov 2.0.
But also this new model of value accrual, if it's not independent of the governance and staking, then it's dependent on it. Like even if you upgrade the token and change the contract, then you need to wait until Gov 2.0 is deployed. So they kind of like one is waiting on the other. Unless the value accrual.
I think a lot to discuss is like kind of what my takeaway is.
Currently, we have like a very dumb DXD token. Like the token, it's like Yearn calls their dumb buyback system. It literally sits there and it's supposed to get the benefit of the products that we make. So like the simplest thing is, I don't know, buy back and burn as much DXD as possible, and that like lowers the supply of DXD, and that can be done today with revenues that are made.
So that's a really inefficient model, I think, generally. Like, I mean, people shit on makers like burn all the time. And I think like that's the bigger thing is like a buyback model is not the best way to like drive value. It's like basically having like a open, like almost like you're always going to be able to redeem for a certain value, right? And that will just like, I don't think that leads to the right incentives for DXD holders there. So I think we need to have another way of basically supporting it that is not just like buying and burning it or something like that.
Totally. But like in today's, without governance 2.0 actually working, I don't know if you can do a more sophisticated, better, more capital efficient DXD driver than just the dumb version, which is the current thing that we can do today. It's almost like we have to do something really until we have governance 2.0.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I guess we also we don't have anything to do in like a month because we have like the ETH from the buyback reserve there. So we have to figure out some way of calculating it. We kind of did the 70% of NAV stuff before, but like I just think in general, like buying DXD at these like higher NAV prices is not necessarily like the best use of treasury funds, or we can talk about like how that fits. I think we should just not have this simple model, but just think about like how this would long term be sustainable.
Well, there's the buyback, and then, but in terms of this like working group, I guess I would ask is like, what does the DXD holder want? I think from my personal perspective, I'm less concerned about DXdao like implementing, a way that the value goes to DXD than I am concerned about DXdao getting revenue, right, or fees from products. Like that, I think is, from my personal perspective as like a DXD holder, that's like the bigger concern and where I would want contributors like focusing their attention. But I think it would be interesting. I don't know. Have you heard from any DXD holders that like this is what they want to see?
Yeah, in the post that I shared earlier, Connor, who's the second largest DXD holder, he has about, I think, 3,000 DXD, supported it and said this would be a good way of giving confidence for people kind of moving forward. I think especially over this time as the buyback reserve, even the buyback reserve depletes.
But Connor is also an actor which participated strongly in the buyback, right? So it's like, I mean,
I know John just asked if there was DXD holder.
Yeah, for sure.
So like,
but I would also agree with John in terms of like, if you look at Yearn, I don't think Yearn token holders like scream for, or there might be a subgroup for like a new. I mean, they introduced a new token economics, but the main selling point of YFI is like they have product market fit, right? With their products, like liquidity is not leaving. They have an active team who actually also do buybacks. Do they still do buybacks?
Yeah, they have this dumb bot that continuously does it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I just like agree with John. Like, our fucking job needs to be like build product and find product market fit now.
Absolutely. I don't think anything about this affects that. And this would be, I work on governance. And so a lot of this would be my time. And so I'm kind of using this as something to say, I think this is important. I want to devote some of my time, but like the product team should be focusing on driving and creating revenue 100%.
So yeah, I mean, when I see Connor's post here, like, he says a timeline, some public-facing info on the working group that will solidify this longer-term solution. Like, I mean, he wants clarity on the buyback, right? But does he want like a working group on the token model? Like, I guess my concern is that it'll look like we're focusing less on the product stuff and more on, talking about token models.
Yeah, so I see it similar with like Gov 2.0 finalization, right? Like the working group was successful. We defined a specification and then nothing happened. And that's mainly because the focus shifted to products and all the work was put into products. And the chances that we create a working group, create potentially like a well-defined specification for Gov 2.5, which includes like product tokens and the financial aspect of DXD. And then the same thing will happen. People put focus on products, but not on the work we define. So how do we...
Currently, half of our dev resources are focused on governance, well, the steps that are going to get us to governance 2.0. So DXdao is spending a lot of time and focus on something that's not a revenue generating product. It's like our own governance system, which we need, but it's a hard, long thing. But a lot of our resources are dedicated to that.
Yeah, it's maybe closer to a third of the resources, but yes, there's significant resources.
Yeah, and I would consider this as like like we're not focused on the governance scheme, right? Like I'm like very part-time as like a product designer, but from my point of view, it looked like we are creating a product, which might be used by DXdao in the long-term future. But if we come up with a well-defined spec for our DXD token holders, and I'm like looking back in the history, we didn't do much for DXD token holders, right? Like we all can agree with that. And then we might fail again with like, at some point they will not trust us anymore. So we need to if we come up with a well-defined spec, we need to make sure that we actually execute on it.
And isn't the need more for a spec, which, I mean, that sounds like we need like a technical spec, right? Which is more, it's like we need the governance team to build this, right?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, I think the key problem is we don't know how product tokens fit into this and how you can have a staked in terms of revenue discussion. And I think these are like not huge issues, but we like have to figure out how to solve them. I think a working group would make sense. I agree with Geronimo that ultimately it's about execution and it's about the product teams like delivering on what governance passes. And I think that's very important here. And yeah, I think there is some urgency in this. As I said, like the buyback reserve will run out in like a month, and we don't have really any way of. After that there wouldn't be like any way of even like purchasing DXD or having any support there besides it actually just being a fan coin. So I think coming up with something, in that time frame, even if it's not the working group, is very important.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe to chime in just a little bit, I think John maybe touched on this. So there's like, the working group that does sort of like the specification of what we want to do, what we want to do. And then I think what was missing maybe in governance 2.0 is that there wasn't like a technical specification that followed perhaps by, the technical team that would allow, the product team to implement that technical specification. And, just sort of like, yeah, I think I very much agree with Geronimo here that, something kind of, got stuck with like governance 2.0. And I know it's fine, like we're learning from this process. But yeah, perhaps after this working group, we will also create, a technical specification working group that will, translate that into what needs to be developed when and how. And yeah, like I think, the token revenue model is not a part directly of the governance, but it's very much interlinked with it. So these things will come together. Yeah, and the bottom line is that we're tackling very, very challenging things, and it's okay for this to take a little bit more time. I have a little perspective of what's happening from the outside, and it's fucking worse. People are just like, yes, we'll just use whatever there's out there, and it's it's shitty models that don't really make sense. So,
Am I the only one who thinks that executing on Gov 2.5, like the results of the working group included, will require basically all our resources, which in my view is fine, but we need to slow down on like products?
I think there should be a signal vote for this. I mean, like my gut feeling says that you're probably right, Geronimo. Maybe we should allocate, maybe if it's like John said, 30% to governance team, maybe we should allocate 70% and then 30% to the product. But yeah, maybe we should put this to a signal governance vote.
That sounds great. And talking about allocation, allocation of resources, that might be a good avenue into the last topic on the agenda, which is actually the DXdao budget. So there are a couple of posts in regards to the budget as well. I'll just leave the floor. I guess Chris and John had a proposal about for a post about that, so I can leave the floor to you guys.
Yeah, so I posted on Monday night. So this is like a proposed budget for half 2022. That would be starting August 1st. Would be the fiscal year. It's a little bit different, but yeah, this was building off of the DXdao expenses update we did last month, which was looking at the expenses and categorizing them according to different squads. And then the squad teams went back and put them into like a line item budget for their individual teams. They had a template that they were using. And what I tried to do here was to consolidate all of those into a single spreadsheet that could have basically like a line item budget for the next 6 months for everything like DXdao has. And that goes in like the same kind of format that the other expenses had there. And so you can see here, this is if you put all of the squad info together. And we kind of go in, I won't go into too much detail on it here. But yeah, you can see that this would be a proposed burn of $295,000 a month, which would be just under the 1.8 million that was we talked about with the DXdao expenses. And on the sheet you can download, you can see on each sheet there is a on the worksheet there is a sheet for each squad that breaks down the line item for each of the squad. And so these are things you can look at. DXvoice has a bit more on merch sponsorships, and you can see the different contributors that they have there. And there is a sheet on this that shows the breakdown between squads for different members, right? So you can see here, like Candy Fork is like 18%. That's partly because there's a different squad associated for the rest of that there. And so, yeah, you can see that for DXvoice is there, and there's DXgovs, and there's all the others are on the full Excel sheet. And so in terms of what this budget would look differently from what we did before, so this is comparing this upcoming 6-month budget to the past 6 months. The previous 6 months of expenses actually runs through May, does not include June. You can see here like the different changes here. And so things like DXgov went down. Most of it's because of expecting fewer audits from Ross. Swapper went up, which is actually more because of costs that were already starting to absorb in March and April there. Governance mostly stayed flat. There were some legal cost adjustments. Carrot increased, but it's mostly because of some lower cost in the previous one. Contributor X increased, but that's because of the DX retreat in Bogota. And then, a couple other, I guess, DXBiz, there was a small decline. And then DXvoice was another one that saw a decline, but that's because they had such a big expenditure in the first half of 2022 with the Copenhagen Flames there. So I think, hopefully people can kind of play around with this. Any squad leads have any questions on kind of things that we did in terms of consolidating it. One of the things I did do there, which I think is more symbolic than maybe anything, but I allocated like all full-time contributors 5% to governance, because I think that's something DXdao values, is that like people have to take time out of their schedule to like do governance. And I think that should be like, compensated for I folded some categories together. So there's some kind of categorization things on the different individual expenses here. But yeah, so anyone can go through, pick out any things that flag any things that we shouldn't be spending money on. Maybe we should be spending money on more things. But yeah, just wanted to present that here, and any questions, comments. Cool. Well, that was it. It's a fun spreadsheet, actually, so I would download it.
Yeah, and that's a timely finish. I guess we're right on the hour. Not sure if anyone else has. Nathan, I saw you just unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we could, look at it from different angles, tweak it a little, and like the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's a median number. It's not like an exact number because everything is in motion and everything is changing. So, that seems like a good measure for us to estimate and like project what the future burn rate would be, closer to the one that John prepared in his report as well. So yeah, on one hand, 3 years is a lot compared to the situation of other organizations. On the other hand, one might think, oh, 3 years, just 3 years. But I think we shouldn't worry about it like obsessively. I think we're doing well. We should just keep doing what we're doing with more timely calculations to see how we're tracking. I've heard from people that there's work on the roadmap that will help clarify a few things as well, and everything's fine. We should chill. We're good. We're good.
Well, and in the spirit of chilling, if no one else has anything to say, have a chill rest of your beautiful Wednesday afternoon or morning, wherever you are.
Do people want to stick, by the way, for some of the discussions that happened before the?
Sure, there is a contributor X
Call.
call. That's the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Got off to that. I think there's another call after.
Yeah. Then we have the hackathon call.
I mean, we can transition this call straight into the contributor X call.
Yeah, I gotta stop the recording.
Okay.
How do I do this? I think I have to leave.